Tula, I feel like if you're going to sit on my lap during lectures, that you should contribute a little bit more. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Philosophy of the Paranormal with me, Dr. Josh Redstone. Now, as you've no doubt read on the announcement that I've posted on CU Learn concurrently with the posting of this lecture, well, I suppose you may not have read this yet. Maybe you're just watching the video. But in any case, I've decided upon a bit of a change of plans here. And rather than just abruptly ending things off with this video, I decided that I would try to explain what precisely is going on and why I've decided to wrap things up this way. So let's get into it. So of course, per my last lecture, I still had yet to make the final 2 special topics lectures, but it is now nearly the end of the exam period, and although you aren't being tested on any of the material that was going to be in the special topics, I still wanted to complete them because there were 3 choices that all got the same number of votes. And I imagine that you wanted to hear about those topics that I had not yet lectured on. That is cryptozoology and sixth sense deja vu type of thing. Now, since the last day of the exam period is drawing close, that's August the 23rd, and since this is the due date for your final paper, I imagine that all of you right now are probably not in any rush to view these special topics lectures because you are working on your final paper. So what I have decided to do is to kind of leave aside these lectures. Now, you're all busy working on your final exams, and I think it would be a better use of my time if I were to simply make myself available for the rest of the week to answer questions, to have meetings over Discord with students, basically to attend to any of your needs with regard to the end of the class, which really just involves completing your final paper. At least that's all that remains that will serve as the basis for your grades, right? There wasn't going to be any critical response or test or anything for the special topics, so if they happened to be helpful for your paper, great. But it was really meant to be an idea to do, be a way to do something fun and get away from the topics that were already laid out in the course outline. Another reason that I have decided to change the plan for the end of the term is that I am going to be teaching another class in the fall. This is going to be Philosophy of Cognitive Science. Now, normally, I like to prepare for a course well in advance. As you may have noticed, I was not able to do that for this class because, because of everything going on. So I was preparing a lot of material on the fly, but I don't want that to be the case for future classes. Not to mention, I took over another course, as you know. I took over the Language and Communications course, which means that I was doing kind of like double time this semester, and I just have not been able to prepare the special topics in a way that I feel, in a way where I haven't that.
Do it justice.
Yes. I feel as though I just would not be able to do these topics justice in the time I have at the end of the term. So this is what I propose. I will remain available for consultation about your final papers up until the time they are due. Probably not on Saturday, but the remainder of the week and also Sunday if anyone has any last minute questions. I should be available for consultation. And I will spend my time just being available while I prep for future classes that I'm responsible for teaching. Of course, yet another reason that I've decided to do this is that since you're all busy writing your final papers, it would just make more sense for me to focus on getting you your feedback for critical responses 3 and 4. So that is what I will be doing in addition to remaining available for any questions you have or anything like that that's related to your final paper that you're working on right now. I will be grading those and getting that feedback back to you before the end of the week. By Friday is my goal, in fact. So, to sum everything up, I don't feel I can do the topics justice in the time that I have. You are all probably busy, and you are all still awaiting feedback on some of your work for this term, which I apologize for. I do not have a teaching assistant in this class, and I have been juggling quite a bit since I took over the second class, the language and communication class. So my sincere apologies go out to all of you who may have been counting on hearing about cryptozoology and deja vu in the sixth sense. I may still be able to do these at some point, so if any of you are interested, I suggest that you stay subscribed to the channel, and at some point in the near future, I should be able to put something together. That is if you are interested. If no one's interested, then I won't. But if you are interested, you should let me know. And it can be something that I work on after I get your grades back to you. Because again, you're not being evaluated on anything from these special topics lectures. They're just for fun and, not entirely for fun, but to get outside of the course outline and to do something different and interesting that you all are interested in. So I'm sorry that I'm not able to have those done at the present time, but I still am willing to do them once I get some feedback to you. That's just what I'm not going to concentrate on right now. I'm just not going to concentrate on that right now. I'm going to concentrate on your feedback, I should say, not on the lectures. But if some of you are interested, then I can make some videos about them and just upload them to this channel here, and interested parties can take a look. Well, it would be kind of lame if I just ended things now, though, so I will tell you guys a little bit about the plans I had for these special topics lectures. So why don't we start with the cryptozoology idea first? For the cryptozoology lecture, what I actually had in mind, following a suggestion of one of you, and that suggestion, of course, was to do a kind of Canadian cryptozoology lecture, was to focus on one particular cryptid from British Columbia, the Ogopogo. Now, cryptozoology is the study of folkloric creatures. Cryptozoologists would not characterize what they do this way. They would say that they are looking for unknown or undiscovered species. But the species they look for are always creatures from folklore, or some kind of, perhaps an oral tradition from an Aboriginal community, as is the case with the Ogopogo, in fact. So cryptozoologists try to find evidence for what they call cryptids, creatures from folklore that they believe are real creatures. And of course, well-known examples here include Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster, a creature said to inhabit a lake, or loch, in Scotland. Another famous example is, of course, Bigfoot, or Sasquatch, which ultimately, I believe, comes from Native American legends. In Asia, there is a similar cryptid, the Yeti, the abominable snowman. Kind of similar to Sasquatch in that it's this supposed to be this big, furry, ape-like creature. Of course, in South America, there's the chupacabra. Many examples of cryptids can be found in folklore from around the world. So there's lots of different examples. And there are unique Canadian examples, too, like the Ogopogo, or Augie. Now, the Ogopogo is actually, if you trace the idea back, the Ogopogo was actually a spirit that was believed to inhabit the lake and the area around the lake. So we're talking about a spirit here, which the First Nations called, and I'm probably mispronouncing this, Naitaka. So we have this lake spirit in the oral traditions of the First Nations people who lived around the Okanagan area. What seems to have happened with the Ogopogo is that European settlers in the area have mistaken what Ogopogo really is. Ogopogo, of course, in First Nations beliefs, I'm using the the tourist name, Ogopogo here, of course, not the name of the spirit that the First Nations used. But the First Nations believed in the spirit who lived around Lake Okanagan in British Columbia. What seems to have happened is that the European settlers have taken this spirit to be an actual creature which lives in the lake. And there have been sightings of this creature, alleged sightings of this creature. But what is really going on here? Are people really seeing a serpentine lake monster, a bit like this photograph that I found on Wikipedia? Probably not. A simpler explanation for the Ogopogo, at least physical sightings of it, is probably actually groups of otters. Groups of otters swim in a line, one after the other. A bit like how geese fly in a V shape in the sky. So you have these otters swimming kind of like this, in a bit of a serpentine motion. And if you see a lot of otters swimming over a large distance, it may appear to you that there is a giant serpentine monster swimming in the water, perhaps. So this is one explanation for Ogopogo sightings that we can offer. Because after all, the First Nations who inhabit that area, according to their traditions, the Ogopogo is not an actual creature or monster who lives in the lake, but a spirit who lives in the area. So it's not some kind of animal, right? It's a non-physical entity, right? So what seems to have happened, long story short, is that the European settlers misunderstood what they heard about Ogopogo and mistook it for a creature rather than a spirit, which is what the First Nations believed. People saw things like otters and logs and things in the water which, under certain conditions, may appear to be alive, and perhaps these were mistakenly believed to be the Ogopogo. But what's especially interesting is that Ogopogo has really been seized upon and serves now as a kind of tourist attraction. So I think really to explain the Ogopogo, really what we've got here is a curious case of cultural appropriation going on. This belief in this spirit that was present in the First Nations communities has kind of shifted as it was appropriated by the settlers and turned into belief in a literal being, which was then used as a sort of tourist attraction. Indeed, this photograph here of Ogopogo is a statue in Kelowna, British Columbia, and it kind of serves as a tourist attraction, right? You could take your picture here with the Ogopogo if you like. And I want to point out that something similar strikes me with many ghost hunting locations and purportedly haunted destinations, right? And same for UFO hunting, actually, whether it's cryptozoology or ghost hunting or UFO hunting. There have developed in recent years these kinds of tourism industries based around these things. And if you're visiting this area in British Columbia, Canada, likely you will see lots of signs and photos and activities all centered around the Ogopogo, or Augie, as the creature is sometimes called. And it's interesting that a number of other cryptids have been kind of used in this way for tourism in Canada elsewhere. For example, Manipogo is another lake monster from somewhere in Manitoba, and the Igopogo is a lake monster that is alleged to live in Lake Simcoe here in Ontario. But as I said earlier, with whether it's cryptids or whether it's ghost hunting or UFO hunting, there is quite a tourism industry there. Indeed, I remember the odd episode of Ghost Hunters that I have seen. I did not watch the show regularly, but I have seen the odd episode just for giggles. And, they're always visiting an old location that's, serves as a museum or a hotel or a tourist attraction. Even here in Ottawa, right? A lot of the purportedly haunted locations involve tourism or travel. Chateau Laurier is said to be haunted by some, and it is obviously a big fancy hotel that you can stay at. The Bytown Museum down by the locks by the canal and the Ottawa River near Parliament is said to be haunted. Tourist location. The old Ottawa jail, you can go on walks through there at night and it's really creepy and it's purported to be haunted. I've even had friends claim to have taken pictures of ghostly images there. So is it haunted or is it a tourist attraction? Do cryptids really exist? Or is it a tourist attraction? Think about it. Anyway, that's a sketch of what I was going to talk about for the Canadian Cryptozoology lecture. And if you're interested, once I have all your grading out of the way, I can try and offer a more developed version of this. Be sure to let me know in the comments section. The second of the special topics that I was going to talk about, I sketched out kind of like this. The second topic being, of course, deja vu and the sixth sense. Now, of course, I had my ideas developed a lot further when it came to talk of this sixth sense. But, as I mentioned earlier, if you're still interested in a more developed presentation of these ideas, that is something that I could do once I get your feedback to you on your third and fourth critical responses. So I was going to talk about this idea of the sixth sense being like intuition, right? This kind of, you have a gut feeling that something bad might happen, and then it happens, right? I wasn't going to talk about the sixth sense in terms of ESP or anything like that, because I've already lectured on ESP, as you know. In any case, what I was going to do for this one was spell out why this idea of a sixth sense is kind of a faulty idea. And I was going to do that in sort of two parts. I was going to talk about human senses and perception, and then I was going to talk about intuition and what cognitive scientists say that intuition is. So I'll try and offer a sketch of this now before I wrap it up for the day. So basically, you hear it said often that humans have 5 senses, right? We have sight, we have hearing, we have touch, of course, and we have smell, and we have taste. But this isn't really a good way to represent our senses or how to divide them up. We certainly see, we certainly have sight as a sense, and we certainly have hearing as a sense. So we have vision and audition, to use the technical terms. And these are subserved by specialized areas in the human brain. For example, visual cognition and visual perception is subserved by the visual cortex, which is back here in your occipital lobe. When it comes to other senses, though, things get a little bit mixed up, right? We talk about taste and smell as if they are different senses, but really they involve very much the same mechanisms in the nervous system, the brain, and the body. This is why when you have a cold and you're very congested, your sense of taste is affected, because your sense of taste and smell are kind of run on the same system. So, are they really two different senses? Some people would say that they're not. And of course, we have senses that we don't even talk about in our everyday parlance. So, for example, we have an ability called proprioception, right? Maybe you've heard of this term, but likely in everyday discussion, you haven't heard proprioception talked about as a sense. But proprioception is your ability to know where your body is, or parts of your body are in space, and what they're doing. So feeling that my arm is over here, and feeling that it's doing this, and that my other arm is over here, that's proprioception. It's different than touch. You know, touch is like what this feels like. What does this feel like? That's touch. Proprioception is about knowing where my arm is and how it's moving, right? So, our kind of folk understanding of our senses is a little bit off, right? And of course we have other senses, other things that go on in the body that could be described in terms of senses, I suppose, like those gut reactions that we sometimes associate with a sixth sense. Of course, I haven't said anything at all about the emotions here. Of course, we feel emotions in our bodies, but we don't talk about emotions in terms of our sense of touch or our sense of proprioceptions. Our ability to feel emotions is like a sense all on its own in that regard. But anyway, so if you associate the sixth sense with intuition, well, there's a way we can explain how it works without appealing to the supernatural or the paranormal. A lot of cognitive scientists point out that much of human cognition and perception is done unconsciously and automatically, right? And intuitions might be a type of unconscious cognition, where we're not aware of the cognitive processes at play. We don't have conscious access to them, but they deliver to us this kind of gut reaction, which we do experience consciously. So intuition for the cognitive scientist is really a form of rapid, accurate, unconscious judgment or unconscious cognition. It's not a spooky, mysterious phenomenon. It may seem so because we don't have introspective access to those cognitive processes, only to the result, right? But if you have a bad feeling something's going to happen, or you're relying on your intuition to tell you that, that could be because the situation contains similar cues to previous situations that have worked out a certain way, and you're unconsciously aware of that, and your gut feeling, your bad feeling, is the end result of this rapid unconscious judgment that is your intuition. So we don't really need spooky, supernatural, paranormal explanations to explain intuition. Then, of course, there's other ways to look at the sixth sense. Perhaps you understand the sixth sense in a kind of M. Night Shyamalan way. You know, you can speak to dead people, perhaps. Well, I've already covered that in the Ghosts lecture and in my ESP lecture, so I won't be talking about that any further. In any case, this was just a sketch of how I was going to tackle the sixth sense deja vu stuff. Again, if you're interested in getting a more well-developed account of this stuff, I can still do that after I get some feedback to you all. So let me know in the comment section. Alright everyone, so that about wraps it up for today. Again, I'm sorry to change plans last minute, but I really do think this is just better for everyone. It's better for you because you can focus on finishing your papers, and I can be available to help you do that should you require my assistance. And I can get your feedback to you from responses 3 and 4, which I have been much too late in doing because I've been much too overwhelmed with the workload. So apologies for that, and thanks to you all for bearing with me, and thanks to you all for your suggestions. This is another reason why I still want to eventually do these lectures, because you did vote for them, you all participated, and you'll all, even though I'm not going to lecture on them, you're all going to keep your marks, of course, for suggesting your special topics and voting on them, so nothing will change that way. And I want to thank you all just overall for taking this class. This class has not been offered at Carleton University in quite a long time, and I feel that in putting the class together, I've actually learned quite a bit myself. And this is a class that I hope I have the opportunity to teach again. And if I do, I will have all of you to thank for being in this class, in the first version of this class that's been taught at Carleton University in quite a number of years. So if this does become one of my regular classes, I have all of you to thank for being this initial class where I've tried to develop an approach, and you know, next time I teach it, I'll probably do some things differently, and I'll probably do some things the same. This has been a fun class, and you've helped make it fun with all of your questions and suggestions, and it's been great. So even though we're ending a little bit differently than I planned, I've still had a great time. I've enjoyed teaching this course, and I hope you've all enjoyed taking it. And again, if you're interested still on hearing more detailed and further developed presentations on the sketches of cryptozoology and the sixth sense that I've offered here, please do let me know, and I will get around to doing that once I've finished grading. All right, well, that's all for now, so get in touch with me if you need some assistance for your essays. If not, it's been a blast, everyone, and I hope you all take care of yourselves, and well, the next time I talk to you will be probably when I deliver your feedback for your essays. So, I'll see you all then. In the meantime, take care. Bye for now, everybody.